Well, welcome everybody. I am glad you are here. It is Thursday. It's a 12:12, so it is time for Chat with Green Aggies. And today I'm going to start off. I will be the leadoff batter, and I'm going to talk about irrigation water sampling. And have you had your test? Have you had yours tested? Have you tested your water lately? Can't even read my own writing there. So let's get into this. In going around and working with some growers, I do come across some that don't know their water quality and what is occurring. So, why should you test? Your water quality will definitely have a direct impact on plant growth. It's probably the biggest input that is going into your production, whether it's greenhouse or nursery. And so it is in your best interest to know what you're working with, what you're dealing with, in order to make the right management decisions as you're growing your crops. So the sources could be groundwater, well water. You might want to, if you're collecting and recycling production runoff, that should be tested on a regular basis. Or if you're collecting and storing rainwater for irrigation, and I think this really just depends on what part of the state you're on and what your water sources are and how you are managing them. The frequency of water testing and I'm assuming, most growers are year-round growers. So ideally, it's probably at least twice a year, once in the summer and once in the winter. In the winter, probably before you get into the heat of your spring crops, and then again in the summer. Now, if you have a new water source, you want to go ahead and test that on a monthly basis, just so you've got an idea of what is happening. If there's any trends or if there's any hiccups in the nutrient levels or the alkalinity or the EC, you're aware of that. The other thing which we definitely face in Texas is if there are drastic changes in that seasonal availability. Whether that be drought or excessive rain, which down here I'm in Houston. I think in my area we're up over 5 inches just from this rain event, and there's spots around us that have gotten over 11 inches. So being aware of what is occurring, or in the heat of the summer, if we are in a drought, that is going to affect your water quality also. So it may be in your best interest then to also pull a sample just to see what's going on, so you're prepared for it and to make your decisions going forward. If you're doing any type of new construction, or if you're buying an established operation, again, to me, that's just a no-brainer. Go ahead and get it tested. Know what you got. Know what you're going to start with, and then move on from there. So here is the form from the soil testing lab that we do here in A&M. Now, you may work with a commercial lab. Um, and whatever you prefer, but it's usually the paperwork and the sample, and here you can see, for a routine analysis from A&M, it's just $25. So really it's a pretty small investment for a major input into your production. So you can give it an ID number, um, check off whether it's a public or private water source, what it is, where the source is from, and then what you're going to use it for. So if it's a greenhouse or turf or any kind of production, irrigation of ornamentals, if you're on the nursery side, you can check that and then choose the analysis that you want here, 1 through 5. And you can see down here, there's a little bit more information for each one. If you had concerns with heavy metals, you can go down the list there. But just that basic one should give you the information that you need: conductivity, pH, and the various minerals and that will come into play in your management decisions. So how to collect, and this is key. The recommendation is to run that water at full flow for about 5 minutes. Get any air surges out of the way. If there's any kind of residues in the line, you can get that out, and just really flush that line and let it run for about 5 minutes. Then when you're ready, take that the hose or wherever you're collecting it from, and fill a 5-gallon bucket. Make sure it's clean. There's no residue in that because we don't want to skew the results one way or another. And then once you fill that 5-gallon bucket, what you're going to do is take your sample bottle, and it's at least I like to say at least a 16-ounce bottle. And as long as it's clean, whether it's a sample bottle that you purchase, or if it's a sample bottle, from a leftover water bottle that you had that you saved, you can use that, rinse it out, and use it. The best way to take that sample is take the bottle and submerge it into that 5-gallon bucket and fill it to the top. We don't want any headspace in there. That air or that headspace can cause issues and can affect the test results. So we want that bottle filled to the top and then cap it while it's still underwater. So this way there's no chance of any air getting in there. Once you've got it capped, you've got your sample, take it out, label it, fill out your form, and send it in for analysis. Make sure you label that bottle with the same type number that you mentioned on the form, so the lab can tie the two together and make sure there's no confusion or discrepancies. So this is from University of Massachusetts, and I like this table because it's good for giving you an idea of the ranges. pH and EC and alkalinity are probably three of the more important ones. The minerals themselves come into play, but these are the three that we're really looking at. And so we can see our target range that we would like to see. So for EC, it's 0.2 to 0.8 millisiemens, and for alkalinity, it's 40 to 160. And then we've got this acceptable range area that they give us here also. And you can see that range is a little bit broader. And this is more based on depending on what you're growing or the volume or the size pot that you're growing. So, a 10-gallon pot, the amount of soil in that is going to have a little bit more buffering capacity than, say, if you are a plug producer. So your thresholds and your levels are going to be much tighter if you're a plug producer, maybe as opposed to if you are growing, say, finished trees or larger nursery stock material. So this is available online at UMass. If you want to take a quick picture of that there, it's a 3-page report or fact sheet, and this is it's good information to have at your hands, just as an overview, so you've got an idea of where those levels should be once you get your results. Some reminders, okay, and we're going to go back a little bit to when you had high school chemistry. pH, of course, is the concentration of both the hydroxide ion and the hydrogen ion that's in the water. One misconception with pH is that it will determine the pH of the growth substrate, and it's actually that the alkalinity will have more of an effect on the pH of that growing media than will the overall pH of the soil. Now, if you have a high pH, it's probably going to tip your hand, or you're going to start thinking that if I see a high pH, I'm probably going to have, I better look at the alkalinity because there's a good chance that that's going to be high also. And then I'm going to have issues with some of the fertility as I'm growing my crop. The alkalinity is composed of dissolved calcium, magnesium, or sodium bicarbonate, or calcium or magnesium carbonate. And when we talk about alkalinity, alkalinity is the water's ability to neutralize acids. And this is including the types of fertilizers we use, or the pH within the media. So, if we've got high alkalinity, growers in their toolbox, they can use an acid base or a highly acidic fertilizer possibly to help combat that. So there are management options, and that's the whole reason of getting a good idea of what you're dealing with and what you have to work with your water quality. As I mentioned earlier with regard to alkalinity, that substrate volume. So the larger that volume, there is more buffering capacity. So the pH will change gradually. All right. So if you've got a low pH and you've got to bring it up, it's going to take a little bit longer for that to occur, as opposed to if you're growing in smaller containers or even plug trays, where you can see those changes or those fluctuations pretty quickly. The acceptable range for alkalinity is we want it less than 150 parts per million when you get your test results. Your conductivity, your EC, this is the measure of total dissolved salts or the free ions in the water. So the higher that level, the higher that number, and this is in millisiemens per centimeter, the higher the conductivity means there's more salt in that water, and this can lead to plant injury under certain conditions. So these are, the conductivity and the alkalinity are two of the key numbers we want to be aware of. The ideal or acceptable range on the conductivity is less than 0.75 millisiemens per centimeter. So just some quick numbers for you to be aware of when you get your results and what you should be looking for. So routine sampling, you should be doing it. A, it doesn't cost that much. B, it's going to ensure that your water source is suitable for production. And if it's not, you can then put in a plan in place or develop a plan so you can successfully grow the crops that you want to grow and produce and make money from. By doing it, you're going to be able to avoid losing your production because of fertility issues or other issues. And then on the infrastructure side, you'll be able to avoid costly repairs to your irrigation system, which is also key. The buildup of those elements and nutrients, clogging nozzles, things like that. If we've got good flow, if we've got a very high quality water, good quality water, you're going to be successful. Your plants are going to grow much better, and you're going to be able to hit your schedules and get your crops out on time. So with that, Mung, I am going to pass it back over to you.
Mung.
Well, does anybody have any questions for Paul? While we're getting Mung's presentation up.
Can you all see my slides?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. Can you see my talking head?
No.
No, just a photo of you right now.
I see a picture of you with really long hair. So that's
Okay, all right. Well, that's I think that's good enough. Let's get started. Let's get started. All right. So many of you probably like this this type of a landscape. This is what we took I think 2 years ago in Tyler, Texas, in the springtime. As you can see, just all kinds of azaleas, dogwoods, the Japanese maple, just really nice. However, outside of East Texas, you rarely see this kind of landscape. We have, again, Texas is just so vastly different, vary from one location to the other. Galveston, very humid, temperatures really nice, grow these palm trees. And then you go west to El Paso, Texas, pretty dry. And in some areas in the landscapes, there's no turf grass at all. It's mainly just rocks. Even for a lot of these dry areas, we don't necessarily have to rely on. These are very nice, agaves, cactus. These are nice, but we don't necessarily have to rely on these for our landscapes. There are a lot of native perennials that we could use in our landscapes, and these are something that our nursery and greenhouse industry could grow a lot on. And this I think there's still a huge potential. There's still a lot of potential to use these native Texas perennials in our landscapes. And of course, to use these in our landscapes, we gotta have them in production. Okay, I'm gonna start to mention some of our native perennials. Before I mention some perennials, we have some kind of false perennials. By definition, perennials are those coming back year after year from the roots. They don't just grow and die. They come back year after year. What I call quote unquote false perennials, that these couple of perennials that they do come back year after year, not necessarily from their dormant roots, but from they reseed themselves. So in a sense, they kind of behave like perennials, and like no other. Texas bluebonnet is one that you all are probably very familiar with. There are quite a few different colors of Texas bluebonnet, and also there are several species of Texas bluebonnet that then you can see that they vary slightly from the leaf shape, from the flowers, from the location where they grow. But this is one what I would call false perennials. Just showing a spectrum of color of various Texas bluebonnets. The next perennial is the next one is a bluebell. Often when we talk about the bluebell ice cream, what folks think is the Texas bluebonnet. But Texas bluebonnet, it's bluebonnet, it's not bluebell. And what we see here, this is the bluebell in the Texas Hill Country. And I stole this picture from my colleague, Lisa Whittlesey, who took these pictures. And this is what bluebell looks like in a close-up. And after the bluebell was introduced into cultivation, there has been tremendous breeding done on improving the ornamental characteristics and everything. So now bluebell is it's the ancestor of a group of very famous cut flowers. You may have heard of Lisianthus, Lisianthus, and Lisianthus are mainly grown as cut flowers. Recently, there has been a lot of effort being done to use Lisianthus as landscape and also pot container flowers. So I'm just going to quickly show you some of the new cultivars from the commercial world. And just keep in mind, the original bluebell is this type of a single flower, mainly with this bluish purple color. And when it comes to the commercial, there has been just tremendous. I'm gonna quickly show some pictures. And as you can see, there are, bicolors, doubles, and then the color range is just like everywhere in the whole spectrum from white to yellow to red to pink. It's just the whole spectrum. What I'm showing here are two more false perennials, red corn poppy and the California poppy. Of course, the red one is the red corn poppy and the yellow one is the California poppy. And they too, just like the other false perennials, that they reseed pretty well. So sometimes in some states that these are even considered just a little invasive, because they spread, they seed everywhere. They spread a little. This is a California poppy, and this is a red corn poppy. And if you go to the whole country, the wild seed farm, you may have seen, just fields and fields of a red corn poppy. Really nice. So they grow to about a foot to a foot, to 1.5 feet tall. You could use these in landscape beds and stuff. Blue eye grass. Blue eye grass is a really nice grass, really nice perennial. Not very tall. This is in the iris family. Before they flower, you kind of they just look like any other grass in the ground. But when they start to put out these flowers, they become really showy. These little clumps. They grow to about 3 to 18 inches tall, with these umbels of starry blue, violet, white, or yellow flowers, depending on the species. Although individual flowers last only one day, but they're produced in great quantities. So the whole thing, it looks like it just continuously growing. And the foliage may be evergreen depending on moisture and temperature. But of course, if we have the winter storm Uri, probably nothing, not too many things will stay evergreen other than, say, hollies. And you'll probably don't notice this thing because these frog fruits are so low growing. They're so low growing. It's more used as a ground cover. They're very short, just about 6 inches tall, something like that. One of the things that we often ignore or not notice enough is that these things, when they flower, they are bee magnets. There's this time I was working in the field, and I just heard these buzz. And it was early spring, and nothing. If we don't count this one, nothing was flowering. So I'll just keep looking, but then finally, it was at my feet that I saw these bees just buzzing at these flowers. I don't know whether they have a nectar, but more likely the bees are working on the pollen of these frog fruits. Great for ground cover. And also one of our professors, Dr. Mike Arnold, is actually working on increase in the color of frog fruit. Right now, what the most frog fruits that you see are creamy white. So he's trying to introduce more colors into frog fruit, making it a more colorful ground cover. A lot of you are probably familiar with this prairie phlox. It's a mounded perennial. It grows to about 1 to 2 feet tall and bears clusters of fragrant pale pink to lavender flowers. This is so it's more a full sun plant, but it could tolerate some shade. And when you grow them in shade, the plants tend to be slightly taller, leggier. Plants may have less flower simply just because they like full sun, and naturally shade makes these things grow taller. This is a Mexican flea bay. It flowers basically from spring to fall. It grows to about 1 to 2 feet tall, and it just kind of spreads. It grows the exposure. It has a whole spectrum from sun to shade. And this is another one that may get just a little too vigorous, a little invasive. So you really see these little small white daisies and with a little touch of a pink, just almost, if the temperature's good, it almost bloom all year round. The best spot for this thing will be somewhere almost full sun, but with a little light shade. And often, if they're grown too vigorous, over just too much for you, simply just shear it back, and it will just rebounce to another very nice show. And so basically, when you grow these things, they just quickly, spread out, and in a container or on a rocky bed, it will naturally form a flower fall. This is a yellow sundrop. In the some may call this the botanical name. It was used to be called Anithra. It was some type of Anithra, but I think now it's in the Callilophus genus. The flowers looks just like primrose. It looks just like primrose. It grows to about 8 to 20 inches tall, and then the narrow leaves crowd the branch stems and comes up with these small yellow 4-petaled flowers born from the upper leaf axils. The best bloom occurs at the beginning of the plant's flower period. This is in the same genus. This is square bud primrose. So compared to that one, this plant, the whole plant seems to be a little more tidy. I love this one, chocolate daisy. And if you smell this thing, it literally gives you the chocolate smell. Of course, you have to put your nose a little closer to the flower. And then even after the flower, and you probably notice, like when the sunflower is over, the after bloom is not that attractive. It's really not that attractive. But this chocolate daisy, even after they drop their petals, they drop their most significant part, most ornamental portion, and the after bloom is still very attractive. And I think I've seen in the promotion materials of the Wildflower Center in Austin, what they put there I remember very vividly that it was on the cover was the chocolate daisy, but not the flower. It was actually the after blossom. This is a four nerve daisy, very common in some of our landscapes with dry, sunny conditions. very low growing, just grow to about 6 to 10 inches tall. It put on these flowers, just yellow little daisy type of flowers, just all season long. This is a Damianita. It could grow to pretty tall. It grows to a clump. It grows to a clump, and it just keep spreading out. The base of the plant could get pretty woody. It could get pretty woody. It keep spreading out, and there may be a certain point that you may see a kind of bald spot in that. But that's okay. Sometimes a little trimming may help it to grow fuller, just be prettier than that bald spot. So that's yes.
Are you saying that if you're bald, you could just trim your hair a little bit and it will grow back in? Is that what you're saying? No, only plants. Oh, okay, never mind. All right. I was also going to point out that I recognize the location of not this particular shot, but many of these photographs seem to have come from the Fort Worth Botanic Gardens perennial trial beds, which are quite
She's quiet.
quite nice. So anyway.
And Laura, where are you from?
I'm in Fort Worth, so yeah, so I'm familiar with that location. But yes, there's a lot of cool stuff there to look at. And I don't know where this particular picture was taken, but I would just say when you're out and about and there's a garden somewhere, take advantage of the opportunity to look at the plants, and maybe you'll get some new ideas wherever you are. So.
Well, thank you, Laura, for the plug-in of the Fort Worth Botanic Garden in the Great Tarrant County.
Great Tarrant County, yeah. But I don't know, where was this? Do you remember where you took this one?
Specifically, this one was taken at the Wildflower Center in Austin.
Austin? Okay,
yes.
Also a wonderful place to visit. Yes,
yes, also a wonderful place to visit. So I want to show the difference between the plant in the landscape. For instance, this one in the landscape compared to this one in the container. A lot of our native plants, are not that easy to propagate, and I mean that could be one of the reason. That could be one of the reason that that a lot of the native perennials are not readily available in the market. I was part of a multi-state working group, and I think it was called Intermountain Native Plant Working Group. And one of the things that we discussed, some of the work that we discuss in the group is propagation of native plants, and we have seen that. Ooh, Airphone, can we?
Yeah, hang on. I'm trying to find out who's unmuted here. Please keep yourselves muted. All I think there's been a few accidental unmutes today, so I might have to disable unmuting capabilities. Go ahead, Mung Mung.
Okay, all right, thank you. So especially for native perennials, when you see them in containers, it's just container is just really it's just a different environment. When you see them in containers, they may not look that great, but just give them the benefit of the doubt that if you purchase one of these in container, not so uniform looking, not so great, but if you plant them in the landscapes, it will look much better. I promise you, it will look much better. It may not give you the meatball. It may not give you the meatball shape that you commonly seen in like plants like Indian hawthorn, or these they will not tolerate the amount of pruning like you would do to some shrubbery hollies. But the thing is, it does have a certain free spirit. It doesn't have certain free spirit that it may grow a little bit more on this side or grow a little bit more on that side. But just take that as what they are, and try some of these. Not let the container look, deter you from having them shine in the landscapes. And as you probably seen, this seems to be a theme here, and you have seen a lot of these plants are in the aster family. They tend to grow a little bit free spirit, but then again, a lot of the plants in these aster families are very drought tolerant, not that picky with soil types. And I think Laura has something to say.
I was just going to say that you might confuse them because there's a lot of them, but a lot of them are really all great too.
Yes.
So, but it is hard to remember all of them.
These are not necessarily for you to try them all, but these are some of the options. These are some of the options that that would probably come in handy when you think about a more natural type of landscape to use these things. And I think for greenhouse and nurseries, yes, Laura?
I was going to say, in terms of availability, what do you think is the most common? Like the 4-nerve daisy would be the most widely available? Possibly?
Yes, 4-nerve daisy is definitely a lot more available. Like Mexican fleabane, it's just such a nice little mound perennial, and it's just so easy to grow. I think somehow it just takes some time for these things to make through the specialty, a little more specialized nurseries like Heidi's place, and go to more mainstream, mainstream. I think the reason of this is the awareness. One is awareness, and then this pull and push marketing. Once we have more and more homeowners, consumers, want to try these, then I think it's gonna come on the market more. And I'm actually working. I'm gonna be working with the Wildflower Center to have some of these plants featured in our in our hort track here. So we're working on that so that when we have field days, that these would be showy and doing their thing, and hopefully that will be attractive enough for for our stakeholders to try them.
Yeah, and you did touch on also some of the issues in propagation. Some of them are a little some are easier to propagate, some of them are a little harder to get going. So if you can't grow something reasonably consistently and quickly and get it to a kind of nice looking sales point, then it's hard to justify putting it into your product mix in a nursery. So
yes,
there's some challenges there too.
Yes.
One question we had about the fleabane was, does it always have the pink coloration? And I sometimes see it where it looks really, really white. I mean, you don't see much pink. So I think that's variable. Maybe it's genetically variable. Maybe it's variable on growing conditions, or
it actually depends on it depends on the condition. It depends on the condition. So sometimes if you, I think if I remember that correctly, if for so many days that you have a lot of water overshadowing days, that they may not show in the intense pink color. Just for instance, I just observed this on my on one of the plants in my own landscape. So on a sunny day, if I have a couple of sunny days, the plants, it's just one plant, the flowers shows at different stage, it shows from light yellow to dark pink. So you have almost like 4 very distinguished shades from light, from light yellow to yellowish to light pink to dark pink, 4 shades, and it's just amazing. But that we've been raining. We've been raining for a couple of days. Now it's all, there's no that pink is gone. I mean, not even mention that dark pink. Now it's all light yellow. And I think the sunlight has certain, the sunlight has certain contribution in the pigmentation of the flower petals as they age, as they go. So that could be contributed to from the light levels from a certain condition. But yes, it definitely, one plant showing multiple colors, that's definitely always a fun thing to see. And that one, that Mexican fleabane, almost just like a weed. Yeah. Once you get it going, so many of these native perennials, is the thing is, once you get them going, they're just gonna keep going. They're just gonna keep going.
Yeah, I also think that this one has, I don't know that you mentioned, but it has also a very attractive post-bloom flower. It's that.
Yes, I agree. Very similar. Yes, very similar to that chocolate daisy. Even after these petals falls, these petals fall off, that the afterbloom continue to develop and into these structures. Just like in this bed, they just wait to be occupied. They just waiting to be occupied by more of this. And the nice thing about these structures is that the petals have much higher moisture, so they don't dry well. But these structures, they have much less moisture, they dry well. So one of the things that the consumers could do is cut them and hang them upside down so that they will keep the shape. Instead of if you hang on them like flower like this, it will kind of fall and form that little hook. But if you hang them upside down, they will still be straight. I should have included this fleabane with the previous one. This is a plains fleabane. It doesn't have the pink coloration compared to that one. This is this behaves tidier than the other Mexican fleabane that we have seen. And again,
that may be what I'm thinking of, is this plains.
Maybe this is what you have seen.
This is what I have. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just wait to see them form a mat. They will gradually fill up the space as you go. In here, I do want to mention this plant. Most of you are probably familiar with this red yucca, and this is a cultivar that I really like. It's called Break Lights. It has the darkest color, darkest red, in all the red yucca cultivars, and then also it's almost seedless. So once it flowers, it keeps on giving, it keeps on flowering. It's not like the normal red yucca. It's not like the normal red yucca that after they flower, they just form those not so showy seed heads.
I was at the Dallas Center
Mhm.
Tuesday, and they had a lot of the, for lack of a better description, the yellow red yucca. So, and that's also a really nice cultivar. That's a pretty yellow.
Yes. Yeah. We always want something that we don't already have or we don't see that often. We always want the unusual. If for the nursery greenhouse and landscape industry is if you have something unusual, that's a cultivar that we want. That's a cultivar that we want. This is an evening primrose. again, Dr. Mike Arnold is working on just improving the ornamental characteristics of this plant. This is showy in the way that the the leaves kind of got this what do you call it, silver lining on it's shiny. It's shiny. This it's just a wonderful silver leaf version of this evening primrose. Laura, you have something to add?
Oh, I'm responding. So Keith asked if brake light seems to be as vigorous as the more common red yucca, the regular Hesperalo. And I do think brake lights is a very nice, vigorous cultivar. I was going to respond. It's here in Fort Worth. It's used pretty extensively along the new Chisholm Trail Parkway, so the toll road that goes through Fort Worth. And that's not a real, easy place to grow and do your thing. So I've seen it used in mediums and lots of situations that are not ideal, and it seems to do very well.
And here's the thing, Keith. Consumers are getting more and more demanding. Flowering once and done, that's not enough. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how pretty you are, that if you flower just once and you're done, they're not as satisfied. And the nice thing about brake lights,
you're a blue bonnet.
Yes, okay.
Yeah,
you just
flowering over a longer period, which is great.
The dark leaf crepe myrtle is not a perennial, but if you think about it, how long do you want this thing to be good looking? I'm using crepe myrtle as an example. That 60 days, 70 days, or 100 days, is that long enough for you? No, when you have that dark leaf on the crepe myrtles, that while it's almost, except the winter time when they don't have leaves, it's almost all year long. So that's the challenge that our horticulture industry, in both the industry and the academics are facing, that we want something that just forever given. So I would pick brake lights anytime compared to the regular. Yes.
I did not know that the actual cultivar name was purple. Is it like for perpetual blooming? Is that what it's for? Brake lights is a clever name. But
yes, well, they sometimes put on a I have seen that they have, not this one, but some plants, they have really you just wouldn't know what that means, and then they have these registered trademarks that would have a much better name, that much easier to remember. So this is more a marketing versus a plant patent name. So this is a skull cap, just a little mountain plant with hairy leaves, with the small salvia looking dark blue, dark purple flowers. Just grow to 6 to 10 inches tall, very small. Again, flower from spring to summer and probably fall. Laura, you're nodding. Are you responding to questions, or are you?
Keith Hansen once again brings up a really good point. He says that's why landscapes need to be designed with multiple varieties that bloom at different times of the growing season. Of course.
Airphone, please unmute Keith.
Yeah,
Keith can unmute himself.
All the good comments from Keith.
Okay.
I mean, he's completely right. Yes, when you're designing a landscape, your challenge is to keep it looking good all the time.
Keith, please unmute yourself. I present to you our colleague who used to be our colleague, Keith Hansen, our hort agent from Smith County. Is it Smith County?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So this is more this. Thank you, Keith. for not only unmute yourself but also showing yourself the very nice image in your office. Keith, what do you have to say about this skull cap?
Well, it probably wouldn't thrive too well right now in East Texas with all the rain we've been getting.
Yes. I totally agree. All these things that yes, you can grow in East Texas. You can grow in East Texas, but you may just have to grow them in slightly raised beds.
Yeah, you would have to do something like Tony Avent and create a crevice garden with good, well drained.
Very well drained. Yes, you definitely. Most of these plants that I mentioned here, you in East Texas there is a possibility that you may drown them. So yes, definitely use these in very well drained, no drowning situations.
In this particular picture, this is a slightly raised bed and it's rock mulch, so
it's rock mulch.
Dry surface there. So yeah.
A lot of us have seen this wine cup just everywhere. There's the prostrate one that runs. There's also the bushy type of wine cup that forms a cluster, and there's also the white poppy mallow. So these things, the white one, I personally definitely like this red one, but I think the color combination between the two is also very nice. I probably would prefer, I will prefer there's more this magenta color than the white color. So
I'm gonna stand up for white flowers
okay.
in landscape design, because I think they usually look good with almost everything. Wouldn't you agree with me, Keith? I'm gonna make Keith nod. Yeah, Keith. I mean, white flowers are underrated. They look great most of the time in landscapes. They
especially in the evening.
Yeah, I was going to say dawn and dusk. They just really pop in the landscape. I'll agree with that.
And you can make some ugly color combinations in your landscape, but you're not going to make an ugly color combination with white. White and green, and anything else you want to throw in there is probably going to look pretty good.
That sounds pretty good. I think this may be a little culture difference between me and you all. Look at what color of shirt that I'm wearing.
I mean, I'm green here, so. Yeah.
So yes, I agree. It's yes, especially what Paul said. In the early morning and the late evening, this white color definitely pops up. So. Yes, I present to you. The next one is a white one that you like. So with the very silvery leaf, this is almost as white as you can go. This is sun and heat loving. It's a Mexican native, but hey, if it's Mexican native, it's probably gonna grow well in this area. In the North Dallas area, you may have to there may be more chance of winter damage. Just need a little protection. So the foliage stems are silvery gray. It really make a great contrast with any other colorful foliage nearby. And then they have these tiny lavender flowers just profusely.
And that kind of silver foliage purple flower combination shows up, in our Texas sage, sinise. A lot of nice drought tolerant plants, but it's also a very attractive combination, I think.
Yes. Overall. Yes, I agree. This is a Mexican oregano. The flowers are very nice, but even when there's no flowers, just the clumps, the foliage, you brush it, it will probably smell very good. This crossvine, I love this crossvine, and I just want to show this so that Laura Miller will recognize where this is. This is around April. This thing is definitely a showstopper. This is a showstopper. Laura, do you know where this is?
Yeah, I do know where that is. That's at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden. That's the kind of like the fence around the maintenance area. And
Yeah.
crossfire.
These, yeah, in April, these orange red trumpet shaped flowers, and they also attract bees, thousands of bees. That's my last slide, and this is where that you all could help us to give us some feedbacks. It's at Six-Legged Aggie. Erfang, is there a S? Is it Aggie or Aggies?
Just Aggie.
Okay, sixleggedaggie.com/chat survey. So we would really appreciate you all giving us some feedback. Just anything you like or anything that you don't like. And next week, we're going to have a checklist. All of us are going to contribute to this checklist. Is your landscape ready for summer? And also in June, we have these wonderful programs ready for you all. With that, do we have any questions for Paul or myself? Oh, so nicely that the Airphone has already included the link for the chat survey and the recording of our playlist. All of our programs are recorded, made available to you at your fingertip on YouTube. We have a playlist. In the playlist, it has all the previous chats, including this one.
Right.
Or do we have any comments about the plants? The list of perennials that was listed here, by no means a complete list. I was hoping that use these plants as now I want to say bait, but that's not what I meant. But was not a bait, but hoping that you use these plants as a teaser. Teaser is what I'm looking at, as a teaser for you to venture into native perennials. And like I showed you in the container in the nursery setting, that they may not look like a little meatball, but try some of these. They will surprise you. They will give you the the characteristics, the ornamental characteristics that you wouldn't normally see in other common in those non-Texas native stuff. And you will have a garden. So these plants are really nice to create a very Texas themed landscape. So what we need is the consumers to ask, hey, can we have this? Do you have this? And then we'll pull the nursery and landscape industry into growing these, making them available. And of course, our landscape architects, our landscape professionals, landscape folks installing the landscapes, getting them be familiar with these plants and get to know how to use these plants in landscapes.